Chris, what is our second main topic today?
This is from Zdravko. Hi, John and crew. Greetings from a longtime viewer from Serbia.
Oh, thank you, man.
I just saw the new Netflix original Day Shift, and I thought it was awesome. It reminded me of my favorite vampire movie, John Carpenter's Vampires, with its moist combination of action, horror, and comedy. Did you guys have a chance to check it out yet? And if so, what'd you think?
All right, thanks for sending that in, man. And yeah, look, I will admit, I went into watching Day Shift with a healthy dose of skepticism because the last Jamie Foxx Netflix original movie that kind of had like the supernatural superhero kind of bent to it was that one he did with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I can't even remember the name of it. But you guys remember the one where he takes a pill and you get superpowers for an hour or a day or something like that? That movie sucked. Like that movie was terrible. So watching the promos for Day Shift, it gave me the same kind of vibes as that movie. Although I had a little bit of hope because one of my favorite comic stories of the last number of years is a comic that not a lot of people have read, but it's called Daymen, which is about, the daytime guardians of the vampires. It's actually a really cool comic. If you get a chance to get your hands on it, it's pretty cool. So I thought maybe this can be a little bit of that. So I watched this movie and it's awful. It's awful. This is a terrible movie. And I'm looking at 57%. I'm like, what did the 57% see? Now, let me start with the good here. Jamie Foxx is always fun to watch. Jamie Foxx.
I love Jamie Foxx.
He's got a Dwayne Johnson-like charisma about him. Like, when you look at him in, like, what was it, Horrible Bosses that he popped? Like, he's just got this natural charisma he can bring to something that, even if he's in something that's truly bad, you'll get a kick out of just watching him on screen. And I'll give him that. The action in the film is the choreography of the action is like top notch.
Yep, that was
like,
great.
When there were action scenes going on, I was having a mildly good time watching it. When you boil it down, this movie is about a vampire with a Lex Luthor real estate scheme. That's it. That's the movie. And by the way, it's a scheme that isn't necessary at all. Because the whole concept of this movie is this female vampire who's a real estate agent is buying up a whole bunch of property in the valley in LA. Why? So vampires can move in.
Yeah.
Vampires were living there anyway. I was like, wait, why does the vampire need to own the property for vampires to move in? The whole movie starts, opening credits, with Jamie Foxx taking out a vampire who's just living in a house. Just living in a house. So you had this whole Lex Luthor scheme that wasn't even necessary. Oh, and then they kind of introduce this entire subplot, this real important thing that this vampire's come up with ways that vampires can walk in the sun. We can walk in the sun. And then they reference it once in the movie, and it's just some kind of suntan lotion that works for like 15 minutes. And they give it like one mention later in the film, and that's it. They just completely drop the thing entirely. And then I can't even talk about this thing that they do with Dave Franco in the movie. That is so utterly, and I like Dave Franco a lot. But they do this thing with Dave Franco later in the movie, and they would be spoiling a major plot thing, so I'm not going to go into it. That I'm just sitting there with my face in my hand going, I can't believe they just tried to do this. The action's great. There's these characters called the Brothers that show up that are really fun. And I could totally see this was a setup for a spinoff. So they're totally going to do a spinoff of these two brothers that are in it. But the movie's truly awful. The dialogue is some of the worst I've heard in a long time. Absolutely some of the worst I've heard in a long time. It's just, and like, he's got an ex-wife who has no idea about what he does. It's like, that made no sense. Because as the movie's going, you realize what he was doing. Like, there's no way the wife thought he was a pool cleaner. Unless she's the biggest moron in the world. Yeah. Like, there's no way she thought he was a pool. Anyway, just every part of this movie, outside of the incredible action, the charisma for days that Jamie Foxx has, was just unwatchable garbage. So, like, unlike, say, Secret Headquarters, where it's like, I did not like that movie. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't that there was anything, like, really bad about it. It's just the absence of anything decently good about it. Day Shift is a little bit different. There are some highlights to the film, unlike Secret Headquarters. But there's a lot of real terrible things about it, too. So, I know that was my take. Chris, I know you didn't have a chance to see it, but
No.
Rob, you
Logan
did.
auditioned for it, so I read
Logan
some of it.
auditioned for it?
Yeah, he auditioned for James Franco's part.
Really?
And
I could totally see him playing James Franco's part.
I know I'm biased. It's literally one of the best auditions he ever did, and it had to get really weird because of that ending.
Right.
So I'm really sad that this is so bad because the dialogue we got was hilarious and super, super fun.
You know, it might have been one of those things where
Dummy
on
sides?
the page, dialogue reads great, but then, I don't know. We want to take a moment and thank the sponsor of this episode, Upside. Guys, from cringing at the pump to getting an eye-popping check at your favorite restaurant, inflation is hitting us all where it hurts, and it really hurts. And that's why I started using Upside. Upside is an incredible app for anybody who buys groceries, gas, or dines out. With every purchase, you are earning cash back thanks to Upside. And guys, believe me, I know. You hear about apps like this, and it turns out you have 40 or 50 hoops you have to jump through, but believe me, Upside is super easy to use. I know it sounds too good to be true, but it's not. I've used it and it works. Upside is a no-brainer. To get started, download the free Upside app. Use my promo code Campea Show and get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. Next, claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside, check in at the business, pay as usual with a credit card or debit card, and get paid. In comparison to credit card rewards or loyalty programs, you can earn 3 times more cash back with Upside. So guys, download the free Upside app and use the promo code Campea Show to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. That's $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more using the promo code Campea Show. Well,
Yeah.
Rob, you did have a chance to see Day Shift.
Look
Tell
at
me
that
you liked
face.
it better than I did.
No. I mean, look, I actually, to be honest,
no's
I
to
was
that.
really looking forward to this because I love vampire stories. I love Jamie Foxx. I thought, again, and our viewer in Serbia very astutely brings up John Carpenter's Vampires, which is based on one of the coolest vampire novels ever written, which was surprisingly called Vampires by John Stakely. But in the book, the S at the end of Vampires is a $. If I could remake almost any movie, if someone said, "What would you remake, John?" I'd remake Carpenter's Vampires. This movie's tone. This movie didn't know what it wanted to be from one scene to the next. I'm like, you know, you look at something like What We Do in the Shadows, the movie. That movie had a great premise. Let's have a documentary crew making a documentary about vampires. And we used vampire tropes. And we used all of this great vampire lore. But the premise was inherently funny, and they never broke the tone. The tone of it, which was inherently humorous, this had, like you said, this had kick-ass action, really cool choreography, cool kills, really interesting, fun stuff. But then the rest of it was like, it was all over the place. I'm like, how am I supposed to feel about this? And there's been so many, whether it's the original Fright Night from '85, even the remake of Fright Night wasn't so bad.
I did not mind the remake, to be honest with you.
I love it.
Yeah, it wasn't so bad.
I drink Midori's to it, and I enjoy David Tennant.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so bad, and yet there's so many examples of. I mean, I think of Grace Jones in Vamp. There's been so many different vampire movies that, or Love at First Bite, you know, with Richard Benjamin and George Hamilton.
Lost Boys is still my favorite.
Well, yeah, Lost Boys does a really good job of tonally keeping the vampire threat and the humor with the Frog Brothers and all that. It could have been goofy, but it stays cool. This movie had Jamie Foxx in it. It should have been. I hated this movie made me feel like I was watching Return of the Living Dead 2.
Ooh.
And I love Return of the Living Dead.
I was about to say, what's wrong with Return of the Living Dead?
Two. Oh my God. Or I hate to slam on this movie, or Jackie Hong's Blood Diner. I just couldn't deal with all the tonal shifts. This should have been great. This movie pissed me off when it was over. I'm like, I wish Jamie Foxx was allowed to rewrite this script, because I bet he would have made it cool.
And I'll tell you what, there's a moment in the film, and I won't tell you any of the narrative repercussions of it. There's a moment in the film where it's like they're fighting a house of vampires, and when it's all done, they're like, "Nah, something's wrong here, man," because they talk in this. I do like the setup, like I like when vampire stuff messes with mythology a little bit, and so like there are 5 different types of vampires. It's like this breed of vampire would never be in a house with this breed of vampire, and they would never associate with that breed of vampire, and yet they're all under the same house. And you finish watching the movie, it's like that had nothing to do with anything. Like ultimately that made no sense. They tried to make it as if it was a big deal. And ultimately that didn't go anywhere. And God, I wanted to like it because that opening scene, I told you the movie just starts cold open with Jamie Foxx fighting a vampire. It's a great fun scene.
It is
I'm like,
a great scene.
All right, buckle up. This could be a lot of fun. And then there's a union, and you got your stereotypical police captain. I got my eye on you, Jablonski. One false move, and you're out of here. It's like, really? Are they going back to that trope? Anyway, I thought it was really bad. Anyway,
you've got to take your world building seriously, because
even in a comedy,
in a comedy, almost
Especially,
yeah, in a comedy. And this film just didn't know what it wanted to be from one moment to the next. And in a way, Secret Headquarters it wasn't the same problem, but it bothered me in the same way.
Well, guys, listen, if you're looking for a movie that you can just put on mute and while you're doing other things and look up, this could be a banger of a film. This could be actually pretty all right. But I don't know, guys, what did you think? Obviously, our viewer loved the movie. I think with the cool action, maybe it'll work for a lot of people. Maybe it worked for you. Did you guys have the chance to see Day Shift? If so, what did you think about it? Jump down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there.